The Museo de La Salle, located in the historic center of Bogotá, Colombia, is associated with Universidad de La Salle, and its building is considered of cultural interest, a heritage of architecture associated with the work of the Hermanos de las Iglesias Cristianas in the country, who since 1893 moved to Bogotá to develop their educational mission. Associated with the educational activities carried out by the community, the Hermanos de La Salle began to carry out research work on fauna, flora, and other science since their arrival in the country. Among this group of virtuous naturalists was Brother Apolinar María, who since his arrival in the country began his work of research and collection of specimens in his travels from Barranquilla to Bogotá, where on July 15, 1910, he made the official inauguration of the Museo de La Salle, Bogotá. One of the main functions of the museum was the research and dissemination of the collections for researchers at national and international level, as well as for the community. Together with Brother Apolinar María was Brother Nicéforo María, a zoologist who arrived in Colombia in 1904 and began his educational and research work in the city of Medellín, making different contributions to the study of biology and the organization of research institutions in that city. With the events of April 9 and 10 in 1948, serious disorders were unleashed by angry crowds that looted and burned buildings. One of them was the Instituto de La Salle, where the museum, the bird collections, the herbarium, and many other specimens were destroyed and consumed by fire. As a result, a large number of unrepairable specimens and all the information associated with them were lost, in addition to the not only material but also emotional effects on the person involved in this project. This was evidenced the following year when Brother Apolinar María presented a strong depression worsened by his health problems that caused his death, which left Brother Nicéforo María in charge of the reconstruction and recovery of the museum. After the fire and total loss of the buildings of the Instituto de La Salle, the reconstruction and redesign project of the institute began. This work was carried out by the architect Herbert Robert Jun in 1949. In 1972, the museum moved to the part of the French neoclassical building where it is currently located. In the 80s, under the direction of Brother Daniel Julián González Patiño, the Museo de La Salle began a new stage, installed in its present location and equipped with some of the elements necessary for its proper functioning. It began a process of organization, basic curatorial process, and inventory of the collection. The Museo de La Salle, from its beginnings to the present, has provided a constant service to the scientific community and citizens, seeking to highlight and promote research on the country's biological resource. This work was reflected in the teaching and collections techniques to young brothers and students who were interested in the study of science. As a result of this, there was an increase in the number of specimens and a growth in the collections, for which Brother Apolinar decided to constitute the Sociedad de Ciencias Naturales del Instituto de La Salle, which in time opened its doors to those outside the institution who were passionate about science, giving way to the Sociedad Colombiana de Ciencias Naturales. Over the years, this society will become Academia Colombiana de Ciencias Exactas, Físicas y Naturales, which is currently active. Additionally, as a result of the research and collect specimens, they have been able to create strong foundations for the investigation of different groups, being a basis for the publication of different works, such as the large number of publications and topics addressed in the Bulletin of the Sociedad de Ciencias Naturales del Instituto de La Salle, the Journal of the Sociedad Colombiana de Ciencias Naturales, and the Journal of the Academia Colombiana de Ciencias Exactas, Físicas y Naturales. Or publications such as the book Chiropteros Museo de La Salle, a work after the death of Brother Nicéforo María based on his manuscripts, which include reviews of details and different families of Chiroptera, highlighting the specimens found in the museum's collection. Another example of this is the book Frogs of Colombia, in which a special dedication is made to Brother Nicéphoro for his contributions in the research of this taxon. Brother Apolinar understood that it was necessary to seek collaboration and establish contact with specialists, national and international, to make the museum an entity of greater investigative value and its collection the object of study and indispensable tools. Indeed, each specimen of a museum, together with all the collection data that accompanies it, can be assimilated to one of the pages of a first book of the research process on them. The next step is the incorporation to the collection, in which, together with the numerous individuals of each species, he receives the expert gaze of specialists and is incorporated into the research process in different files. Currently, the Museo de La Salle, Bogotá, has 2 floors dedicated to safeguarding the different scientific collections, among which are botanical collections, rocks and minerals, paleontology, anthropology, vertebrates and invertebrates preserved in dry and liquid, that they contain around 49,952 copies. Our geological collection is represented by 1,001 samples of rocks and minerals from different field trips carried out by the Hermanos de La Salle. In 2015, a first organization of the collection was carried out to determine the number of samples available. For the year 2018, a more detailed process was carried out where the specimens were labeled, ordered, and photographed. In addition, to assign an exclusive deposit for this collection in order to improve the condition of the deposit specimens. Within the collection of rocks and minerals, we found 544 mineral records and 457 rocks, including metamorphic, igneous, and sedimentary rocks. Within the collection, there is a specimen that had not been observed in detail and that stands out to its conspicuous characteristics to the rest of the others. This specimen corresponds to a piece of amber in which it seems that a small arthropod can be observed. Therefore, it could be a highly important fossil piece, but this must be determined by a specialist researcher in the area. The specimens in these collections come mainly from the departments of Antioquia, Tolima, Cundinamarca, Boyacá, Santander, Norte de Santander, and some samples from France and Guatemala. In these regions, not only rocks and minerals specimens were collected during excavations, but also paleontological specimens, a collection of 3,455 specimens. During different expeditions, the brothers found material on paleontological type, with Brother Apolinar María being one of the main collectors and researchers of this material. This collection grew especially in 1980 thanks for the collections of vertebrate fossils, plants, and invertebrates carried out by Brother Nicéphoro. From these collections, some preliminary identifications have been made. For vertebrates, some identifications were made by the geologist Victorine Poumardi, with additional validations made in 2017, thanks to the great works and processes of organization and change of deposit. The fossils in the vertebrate collections are, for the most part, pieces found in Colombia, from different deposits and geological eras. Among the vertebrates are specimens of Styctis, Sauropsis, and mammals. Of the specimens found in the collections, some doubtful determinations were observed due to the similarity between the pieces. An example of this is the specimen found in Leticia, Amazonas, belonging to a Cenarthron, which was believed to correspond to a reptile's tooth. In addition, among 2 interesting specimens, there are dermal plates of armored Cenarthrops found in the region of Pamplona, Norte de Santander. Both specimens were collected by Brother Nicéphoro María in 1957 and 1916 respectively. In addition to the original fossils, the collection features a replica of Ichthyosaur from the Taylor Museum located in Haarlem, the Netherlands. The anthropological collection has 385 samples of high historical importance in terms of the country's indigenous cultures and some foreign pieces from France. You can find items used for hunting, rituals, defense, and food processing made with different techniques and materials. The collection is duly registered with the CAN, Colombian Institute of Anthropology and History. The institution ensures of the regulation and possession of the nation's archaeological heritage, which allows the collection to be legalized and available for research by experts of the subject. On the other hand, this collection is the first complete collection to be published in the institutional repository of the Universidad de La Salle. Therefore, anyone in the world can see high-quality photographs of these specimens of great historical importance. The herbarium of the La Salle Museum is 116 years old and is identified with the acronym BOG. During the Bogotazo, it was one of the most affected collections, since some 30,000 specimens were lost. Fortunately, the collections of Brother Inael and other brothers keep up the Museo de La Salle were the beginning of the museum new stage. On the other hand, the specimens donated by Father Lorenzo Uribe, Dr. Hernando Garcia Barriga, Dr. Fred Berkeley, and around 1,300 foreign plants sent for France, the French countryside, the Alps, and the colony of Algeria allowed in few years ago the collection had 4,000 specimens. For their study, the brothers were in constant exchange of ideas and exegesis with national and international researchers such as Ellsworth Killip, Paul Stanley, José Cuatercasas, J. Bernard, De Lagrange, and Armando Dugant, and institutions such as the Universidad Nacional Bogotá, the National Herbarium of the United States, the New York Botanical Garden, and the Herbarium of the Museum of Natural History in Paris. Since 1984, the Herbarium-BOG is part of the Department of Basic Science of the Universidad de La Salle. From that moment on, the collection from the Andean region, paramos, and humid forests began to be complemented with the specimens from the Piedmont Llanero in Casanare. The Herbarium collection has 309 families, 1,660 genera, and 3,916 species, including 30,831 vascular plant specimens and 670 non-vascular plant specimens, coming from Europe, Cuba, Chile, Ecuador, Venezuela, the United States, and different places in Africa, Central America, and Oceania. At the Colombian level, the most represented departments are Cundinamarca, Antioquia, Meta, Santander, and Boyacá. Within the BOG herbarium, there are handwriting catalogs with the collection information, taxonomy, and observation of each specimen. Additionally, the collection is undergoing a photographic digitization process in order to ensure the conservation of the specimens and easy access for consulting their information. In 1910, when the Museo de La Salle was officially founded, it was estimated that it had approximately 50,000 specimens, among which the Invertebrates Collection stood out. After the Bogotazo, it was considered that this fragile collection had been lost in the entirety, but over the years, it was possible to reunite the dispersed copies within the community, and together with the contributions of the Hermanos de La Salle and the organization of the collections, evidence that some specimens were not destroyed and were reintegrated into the collections, such as those Lepidoptera and arachnids. The study of entomology, and especially the group of butterflies, was the research area that most caught the attention of Brother Apolinar María. His first observations in Colombia of these wonderful animals were in one of his trips through Puerto Colombia. Due to this special interest, Brother Apolinar obtained a collection of approximately 7,235 copies for 1930. The collection of arachnids has great historical value in the country. Almost half of the specimens belonging to the collection were collected by Brother Niceforo María between the 40s and 50s. Due to the age of the records, their exclusivity, and the areas where they are collected, these specimens have incalculable historical value, since many of the taxes present in the collections are probably not currently found in the original sample's location. The vertebrate collection with the highest number of specimens is ornithology with 10,237 specimens, followed by the snake collection with 3,097 and mammals with 2,540 specimens. A few years ago, all these collections were in a single deposit, which prevent their easy access and location, in addition of not guarantee the optimal conditions for its conservation over time. Since 2018, each collection has its own deposit, which facilitates the conservation and organization of the copies so that they can be consulted. Both Brother Apolinar and Brother Niceforo were great admirers of birds and carried out research and notes on different species, their distribution, uses, interactions, behavior, taxonomy, and the discovery of new species. Among the outstanding species within the collections are the guacharo, the crestel, the Apolinar cockroach, and the condor, a species with unmeasured characters found in the Andean region and presents different traits to date. Of these species, the brothers carry out investigation both of the specimens belonging to the collection and a 2-year follow-up of a specimen that was given to them from the snowy cheetah. This allowed them to publish in great detail the physical and behavioral description of these species. Currently, specimens of the species are preserved, this being one of the specimens that generates the most admiration and interest in museum visitors. In the collection of mammals, you can find specimens preserved in dried and liquid form. Within the collections, specimens belonging to 70 orders, 71 families, 236 genera, and 389 species are kept. The specimens come from 26 departments of the country and some from abroad. Within this collection, there are special bats such as Diplodurus albus, a species of which not many specimens are found in the scientific collections in Colombia. In addition, there are species that have been named in honor of the brothers, as Glossophoga apollinari, Trinacodus apollinari, Trinicteris nicefori, and Silvilagos apollinari. A special case that stands out within the collection is the presence of a specimen of Tremactus lasallate, currently determined as Tremactus ornatus. This specimen was published by the brothers as a new species in 1924 by Brother Museo María in the Bulletin of the Sociedad Colombiana de Ciencias Naturales. According to the brothers' account, this specimen was acquired in May 1924, captured in the Arauca region and brought alive to Villavicencio. Unfortunately, they only had access to the skin and not to the skull, for which a more detailed analysis could not be carried out for its taxonomic determination. Over the years, several hypotheses have been generated about its taxonomy. Due to its geographical location, it was concluded that it was a Tremactus ornatus, although some texts have been found indicating that this specimen belongs to the Ursus arctos species and was probably brought to the country by gypsies to show. At present, the specimen remains a Tremactus ornatus, and it is hoped to be able to carry out some type of molecular analysis to allow corroborating the specimen's taxonomy. The Vertebrate Collection. All these collections and specimens have been of high importance in the description of species for the country. In addition, they are tools of high importance today, since they allow the study of ancient specimens that are not easily accessible or are trained on the natural habitat. Additionally, using these specimens and the research carried out in the different disciplines, the aim is to bring the community closer to the study and conservation of the country's biological and cultural diversity. This approach is carried out through the 3 floors of the exhibition to which students and citizens have access. Currently, the Museo de La Salle seeks to implement different strategies that allow the public to interact in some way with the exhibition, achieving a greater appropriation of the knowledge acquired during the tour. The most recent implementation of this is the Big Bang model, in which this process is explaining the origin of the universe, while the visitor interacts with the program through the moving of his hands. After this, the visitor can find a real piece of meteorite found in Santa Rosa, Colombia, which is characterized by metallic type. This particular has a composition of 97% iron and 3% nickel. Due to its composition, it is very heavy despite being small, as it weighs 18.5 kilograms. After interacting with the origin of the universe and observing elements of the Earth, the exhibition aims to show the different organisms that have populated the Earth in their different scales and sizes. For this, the group of invertebrates is presented, starting from the fossil origins, where you can see replicas of fossils such as ammonites and trilobites and a real organism such as the horseshoe crabs, accompanied by infographics that represent the timeline, showing the variations that occur in these organisms over time. Finally, reaching the current invertebrates and presenting a mixture between real organisms and a replica of coral reefs, showing the different interactions that may exist in this group of organisms, highlighting their evolutionary characteristics and their advantage and contributions to ecosystems. Since different groups of invertebrates and their great variety have been mentioned, a group is approached that causes great charisma in the public due to its beauty and a variety of shapes and colors. In addition, it is one of the most important groups in the investigations carried out by the brothers in the country, the butterflies. Colombia is the second country with the highest diversity of species of this type, around 3,300, for which a space dedicated to this group is present, showing different special characteristics and species that are easily identified by visitors of the morpho butterfly, known also as a musso butterfly. These butterflies have a beautiful iridescent blue coloration on their wings, which cause a great impact on people when they see the color change depending on the angle at which is it observed. Other butterflies that we can find in the museum's collections is the Thysania agrippina or bird's wing, one of the largest butterflies in the world. And in contrast to the morpho, it is not very pleasant at first glance due to its size and nocturnal habits. Most visitors have memories of this species in different parts of the country and clearly associate its nocturnal behavior. However, they ignore different aspects such as their ability to camouflage, both due to their coloration and the age of their wings, which is why they seek to change the initial image of the species. Continuing with the evolutionary context, the group of vertebrates begins to be approached. Beginning with a piece of great importance as it is the first specimen of the American horse and which is currently protected in the museum, the Equus lasalliae. This piece of great importance for the study of this species has been found since its discovery available to be observed by the general public. However, like other fossil pieces, it has suffered some deteriorations, since they were not located in an adequate way, which in the future may put its integrity at risk. With this in mind and using technology, a model of the American horse skull was created that can be easily viewed through visitors' mobile device. This allowed to generate a greater impact and amazement by being able to observe this piece as easy as they were tangible for the viewer, from different angles and with great detail, characteristics that are not accessible with the real specimen. But organisms live in constant interaction with different factors, so it is important to show the environment where they are, allowing people to have an idea of natural habitat, which is why 3 diagrams with different animals and environments are presented. The temperate region and polar ecosystem dioramas show animals that we cannot observe in our country and that have special striking characteristics such as the large antlers of the deer, the teeth and tail of the beaver, the fur of the polar bear and the arctic fox of the body of the sea lion. All these characteristics allow us to explain and show visitors different survival strategies adopted by each species. To give this information without impacting the harmony of the diorama, all the information on the specimens and the ecosystem represented is located in the external display case. In contrast to this ecosystem external to the country, a tropical ecosystem was recreated, known as the Eastern Plains, with its unique characteristics allowing the coexistence of emblematic species for the country such as the jaguar, slowbirds, anteaters, tapirs, or snakes. This representation of a Colombian ecosystem allows people to feel identified with a known environment, with species with which they have interacted positively or negatively, and generating a dialogue where they can express their opinions and emotion, managing to internalize the information provided. At this moment, we are renovating the exhibition, seeking to make a more versatile space that generates interest in all types of public, showing the different organizations in a more striking way, taking advantage of the space, the management of the lights, and ensuring the integrity of each one of the pieces, maintaining their historical importance and giving them an added value to appropriation of scientific knowledge in the community. This arises from the needs for improvement that were evidenced through the years in the exhibition, as well as the need to identify the effects of museography and museology in the conservation of the specimens. This because a deterioration was found in the specimens due to factors such as lighting, little access to cleaning in this space, and the use of organic material that could affect them. To implement these improvements, an interdisciplinary work was carried out in which curators of the collections, conservators, educators, university teachers, volunteers, and students interacted in order to have a biological, curatorial, educational, and conservation knowledge base. Among the changes and improvements, the use of copies without data or replicas of these was sought. Implement different technological tools such as 3D models and graphical pieces. Factors such as the dimension, central point, different types of exhibits, light management, colors, textures, and information arrangements were also taken into account. We hope that with this renewal it will be possible to create a dialogue for the exchange of ideas where the public has a greater approach to biodiversity. This leads us to continue implementing the educational program of the Museo de La Salle, which seeks to develop the pedagogical potential of the museum's collections and exhibitions, serving as a center for scientific dissemination where learning about biodiversity, its change and dynamics allowing the generation of critical thinking in the face of human actions on ecosystems. In the same way, it is a source of information that arouses curiosity about the fauna and flora of the world. From this, an offer of educational service related to learning activities is generated, such as pre-visits, guided tours, workshops, expeditions to the museum, and activities for everyone. The museum is currently vetting and disseminating its content in different parts of Bogotá and Colombia, which is why they have developed two strategies to achieve this goal. The first, the museum goes to school, science, and shoulder. This initiative seeks access by different educational institutions to activities developed in the museum through the traveling suitcase. This suitcase contains a series of portable workshops that will allow reflection in situ on life and sustainability. Likewise, it seeks to articulate issues with the Sustainable Development Goals and make them closer to the reality of the students. On the other hand, we have virtual workshops, complementary activities that offer the opportunity to develop topics of interest that allow the participants to build knowledge through learning by doing and developing cognitive and affective skills. The virtual workshops were developed due to the issues of the confinement and not being able to bring our content to our school audience. That is why some face-to-face workshops were redesigned and became virtual workshops focused on the importance of preserving and conserving biodiversity. The workshops have been very well received, and with them we can take 1,109 primary school students to the Museo de La Salle to different places of Colombia like Bogotá, Sogamoso, San Vicente del Caguán, Valle del Cauca, Valledupar, and Yopal.